Hello, how are you? Today I'm going to talk to you about something that many people are using to help with weight loss, control blood sugar, improve insulin resistance, increase satiety, and even because it has a very interesting impact on GLP-1, which is closely related to Ozempic and Mounjaro these days. I'll explain how to add it to your diet, how to do it the right way. You're going to love it, so stay until the end because you won't want to miss this. Before we start, I want to ask you if you're in the process of losing weight, if you'd like to improve your blood sugar levels. Let me know down below in the comments. How is your relationship with food these days? Write to me. I would love to see your comments. Remember to like the video. That's really important to me here. It shows YouTube that you support the channel and that you trust my content. And if you know someone who might be interested, who needs this kind of information, share this video with them. Let's expand our chain of kindness. More and more people are looking for more affordable alternatives to achieve these beneficial effects, right? Of course, there are medications nowadays like Ozempic and Mounjaro, but we know that, first of all, not everyone has a clinical indication for them. These should be prescribed by a doctor. That's very important. And some people really don't have the financial means to invest in this. So there are some foods that we can add, and of course, they will have similar effects in the sense that they can act by increasing GLP-1 production, as I mentioned, and they may have an effect on insulin, blood sugar control, and satiety. But obviously, these are foods, not medications. The idea of this video is not to compare the two by saying that foods will replace medications, okay? That's an important point. But as I mentioned, they can indeed have extremely beneficial effects on our health and at a fraction of the cost. And many times, it's actually easier for us to incorporate them into our daily routine. The food I'm talking about here is psyllium, which is being used more and more. Psyllium has been around for many years, but recently it has really taken off because people started doing more research empirically, right? In everyday life, personally, people started running their own tests. So then, when I consume this psyllium here, do I see this improvement in my blood sugar? When I start consuming psyllium here, does it improve my gut health? I feel less hungry. So in fact, scientists started researching more because of people's reports, and they checked whether all these beneficial effects it has are really true. So I'm going to explain more about this to you and how much to use and how to use it the right way because that's very important. Psyllium is a fiber, and it's an extremely soluble fiber, so it absorbs a lot of its weight in water. It can absorb a lot of water and forms a viscous gel, a mucilage. This psyllium mucilage is basically what brings all of its beneficial effects. When it reaches the stomach, it increases the volume of the food content. This is already a very positive point. It activates gastric stretch mechanoreceptors, which are sensors that send signals to the brain telling you that you've already eaten enough. At the same time, it slows down gastric emptying. It makes this process slower, meaning that food stays in the stomach longer, and in practice, this creates a very important effect of prolonged satiety. So psyllium can also help a lot with blood sugar control with glycemia, because it creates a metabolic environment that favors weight loss, mainly because you end up eating less, right? As I told you. And it's effortless because you're full, but you're satisfied. And there's a very important effect, which is that psyllium, as it forms this gel in the intestine, creates a kind of physical barrier around the food. So it slows down the contact with digestive enzymes, the enzymes contact with carbohydrates. And in practice, the digestion of carbohydrates becomes slower and the absorption of glucose also slows down. So this can really help with controlling insulin and blood sugar spikes. Before I explain how this works, if you like these topics, if you're interested in weight loss, in controlling blood sugar, in reducing inflammation, psyllium can help with all of that. I want to remind you that I have lots of playlists here on the channel with tips for losing weight, managing blood sugar, reducing inflammation, and much more. I also have plenty of healthy and delicious recipes, including many that use psyllium. There are lots of low-carb and low-calorie options that you're going to love. Check out the description below. So, why is psyllium being used more and more by people who want to prevent glucose spikes? Instead of experiencing a rapid spike in blood sugar right after a meal, when you consume psyllium, glucose enters the bloodstream more gradually, and this greatly changes the body's response. And when glucose rises too quickly, the body needs to release a large amount of insulin to try to control that spike, as if it were hitting the brakes, right? And often, this response ends up being exaggerated because glucose rises quickly after the meal, but it also drops quickly since too much insulin was secreted. And it's exactly this drop that often causes the problem because the brain interprets it as a sign of lack of energy and triggers the hunger mechanism. And what is it usually? Something sweet. This sudden drop triggers cravings for quick foods like sugar, refined carbohydrates, bread, pasta, white rice, and when you change to psyllium, this curve changes. Glucose rises more slowly, insulin increases in a more controlled way, and there isn't that abrupt drop right after. With this, you can better control your hunger throughout the day, with less craving for sweets, fewer episodes of binge eating. And in the long run, there's a very important effect. It's not just on that day. You are able to make better food choices because you already feel fuller, so you can also organize your diet better. There's also another point. When you stabilize your blood sugar, you eliminate one of the main biological triggers that cause people to go off their diet. In addition, this more balanced response improves insulin sensitivity in the long term. In other words, the body starts to handle glucose better. This is especially important for those who already have insulin resistance, prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, so especially for people who have fatty liver, who have a lot of fat accumulation in the visceral, central, abdominal area, psyllium tends to be very important. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit specifically about the relationship between psyllium and GLP-1 and the comparisons people are making nowadays with Mounjaro and Ozempic, which is generating a lot of curiosity. Because the relationship with GLP-1 is that it is produced in the intestine, mainly after our meals, and it has three main effects on the body. It increases satiety, slows down stomach emptying, and helps control insulin release. And it's precisely this hormone that these medications, Ozempic, Saxenda, Mounjaro, these weight loss pens, are designed to mimic. So they keep GLP-1 levels elevated for longer than the body would normally do. They increase the duration of GLP-1's action in our bodies. And now, where does psyllium come in? When it forms that gel in the intestine, it prolongs the contact time of nutrients with the intestinal wall, and this stimulates specific cells, which are the L cells, which are precisely the ones responsible for releasing GLP-1 and PYY. And in practice, this means that psyllium can indeed naturally increase the release of these satiety hormones. But obviously, the effect is completely different in terms of intensity when we compare it to medication. Otherwise, everyone would be taking psyllium, and no one would be using weight loss pens anymore. So while these medications keep GLP-1 activity consistently elevated through long-acting mechanisms, it's still a medication, right? Psyllium stimulates a transient but effective and efficient response. So between not consuming psyllium and consuming it, the effect will be much more interesting for you. It can enhance that feeling of satiety within an appropriate dietary context. That's why I say you can't just rely on psyllium. Like, now I'm going to take psyllium. I don't need to worry. I'll eat a huge plate of lasagna, an entire lasagna, a big tub of ice cream, a hamburger. You can't do it like that. Psyllium works in a complementary way, but you also have to help psyllium help you. Balanced eating, staying hydrated, psyllium needs a lot of water to form that gel. If it hydrates, if it's a soluble fiber, it has to be soluble in water, in liquid, so you need to drink water to form that swelling effect. If you take psyllium and don't drink water, you won't get this beneficial effect. In fact, it can even cause constipation. It can cause other negative effects. So, lots of water and a balanced, controlled diet are needed to help it do its job. Let's not expect miracles. It can help a lot, but as a complement. There's another effect of psyllium that I really like, which is related to cardiovascular health. We know that this mucilage, this gel, can trap fat and bile acids in the intestine. This can reduce the absorption of that fat. It can also help with the excretion of bad cholesterol, LDL. So it's also very good for cardiovascular health. And when we start consuming more soluble fiber, it improves intestinal health, increases the production of short-chain fatty acids, and reduces low-grade chronic inflammation. So fiber is wonderful for our health. And psyllium is a practical way for us to add it to our daily routine. Some people say, I don't like psyllium because it's expensive. But when you think about the fact that you usually use just 1 teaspoon per day, it goes a long way. It's like when you think about olive oil, where you just use a drizzle. It's a matter of making good choices. And some people say, but I want a stronger effect, so I'll use more psyllium. That's not how it works. Psyllium can expand up to 20 times its volume when it comes into contact with water. So you don't need much to get the effect. That's an important point. In fact, consuming too much at first can cause bloating, gas, and discomfort. Some people even end up in the emergency room at the hospital. They think they're having a heart attack because of gas, since there was a lot of intestinal fermentation after they started eating a lot of fiber. It might sound like a joke, but it's true. So, start with half a teaspoon. If everything is fine, increase to 1 teaspoon, and usually 1 teaspoon is enough for most people. If you have any health condition, take any medication, or are unsure whether you should consume psyllium or how much to take, consult a nutritionist because they will assess the rest of your diet and everything else, and they will tell you, specifically for you, what the ideal amount would be. The timing also matters, doesn't it? Because if you're looking to lose weight and control your appetite, to manage satiety, the ideal is to take psyllium before the meal where you eat the most carbohydrates and the largest volume of food. That's why normally psyllium is recommended either before dinner or before lunch. See which meal you eat the most. Take it 20 to 30 minutes before, and you'll notice a big impact on your satiety. You'll naturally eat less, making it easier to maintain a calorie deficit, and the results will come with less struggle during weight loss. Let me know down below if you got excited to try Psyllium, or if you already use it, how much do you take and what did you feel? I would love to see your comment. Remember to like the video, it really helps me out, and share it with anyone who might enjoy it or needs it. Let's work together to spread this chain of kindness. That's what I want here on the channel. See you next time. Bye.